Splatoon Raiders is nothing but Salmon Run with extra features and should have just been another DLC. This game isn't worth its asking price, and I won't be playing it. Those are the opinions of some members in the Splatoon community who aren't in favor of Splatoon Raiders, and to that, I say you are right to feel that way. Everyone has the right to their own opinion. Hello my netizens old and new, my name is Citri, and I'd like to share my own thoughts on the game. As we're all aware, Splatoon Raiders is the first spin-off game in the Splatoon series that will be centered around 3 different entities in the Splatoon universe. Deep Cut, a misfit group of bandits who raid different areas in search of treasure and donate their spoils to charity. The Spiralite Islands, a mysterious archipelago that seems to have emerged from the ocean overnight. And lastly, the Salmonids. Salmonids are fish-like creatures that inhabit the Spiralite Islands and seem to be hoarding or protecting these giant crystals that contain hidden treasures upon breaking them. Our role in all of this is the mechanic. As the mechanic, we'll be the ones taking on raids and searching for treasures alongside Deep Cut. I gotta say, I'm very excited to be playing another Splatoon game featuring Deep Cut, as I feel like they were overshadowed by everything else in Splatoon 3, their debut game. With Raiders, this is their time to shine brightest and our chance to get to know them better. Something Raiders is going to build on is the player's bond with the idol group, as seen in the screenshot. I personally think it's great that Nintendo is implementing a proper bonding system that we the player get to experience firsthand, and instead of just finding out in the game's lore. What do I mean by this? Well, allow me to explain. Throughout the Splatoon games, the player always ends up answering some sort of call to action. This adventure has us working alongside the game's current idol group, forming strong friendships through all the hardships and discoveries we face together. We didn't see much of this in the first Splatoon game, but Splatoon 2 somewhat played with the idea of a bonding system, with Agent 2, Marie from the Squid Sisters, being your guide and mentor in the game's single-player campaign. At the start, she's somewhat neutral towards you, but as you progress in the story, she slowly opens up a bit, often complimenting your skills or sharing little personal details from her childhood with Callie. In Octo Expansion, Off the Hook plays a role in aiding Agent 8's escape from the Deep Sea Metro, and even cheering you on during your escape. Now, I want to build further on Agents 3 and 8, as there are some things that have happened off-screen implying something. In the case of Agent 3, both Callie and Marie seem to have some high respect towards Agent 3, as in the third installment of the game, they were promoted to Captain 3. Something I forgot to mention was during the events of Splatoon 2, Agent 3 was away traveling with Captain Cuttlefish, ended up in the Deep Sea Metro, and helped with 8's escape. As for Agent 8, who might not even be an official agent, they seem to have been adopted by Pearl and Marina, or at least seem to be very close friends with the pop idol duo, as 8 has been in close contact with Pearl and Marina, joining them on world tours and even helping Marina with her personal projects, which was creating the Memverse. Sure, Agent 4 has been neglected mostly and doesn't even seem to be mentioned anywhere in Splatoon 3. I'm sure we'll get some explanation as to what happened to them. I mean, who knows, maybe we'll see them in Raiders too. Aside from this feature being expanded on, the next thing I want to talk about are the Salmonids and just how different they are from the ones we are familiar with. As we all know, Salmonids are enemies that were first introduced in Splatoon 2 as part of a new co-op multiplayer mode. We've seen from multiple news sources that there is somewhat of a wider variety of enemies and some reworks that have been made for pre-existing bosses. For starters, I want to mention several bosses that have gone through some changes. Steelhead has been reworked so that now you can deal damage by shooting ink at its armor, which does make this a bit more favorable in my opinion, as some weapons have a hard time reaching the bomb that's placed on its head. Fishstick now has a propeller attached to the side. Shooting at it shortens the height of the pillar, making it easier to defeat. Flyfish is no longer protected by armor, which allows you to directly shoot them with ink. In turn, it seems like you can no longer throw bombs into its missile launchers. Also, for some reason, they made them more chunky, cause why not? Drizzler. While it still has its armor, it seems to be in poor shape as it has multiple holes that leave it vulnerable to incoming shots while hiding. Big Shot no longer has a cannon and instead has a spring that it bounces on. Each time it bounces up in the air, it lands back down and smashes its cannonball on the ground to send shockwaves at the player. This is actually a relief, because can you imagine if they all ended up stacking the same cannon and sending multiple cannonballs? It would have been a nightmare. Moths appear to have a muzzle that prevents them from splatting you in one shot. This muzzle seems to be made from the underside of a boat, and since you can no longer defeat them by using a bomb, this means you'll have to shoot them with ink. And also something else, it seems like their little floater thingy is a bit more noticeable when compared to the mob we already know. So that's a nice little detail. I believe these minor reworks are a great feature that will definitely make playing through the game a lot more easier and fun. In addition to these nerfs, some bosses have been buffed into a separate class called Seasoned Salmonids. Seasoned Salmonids are boss Salmonids that have received a significant boost in their abilities. The salt from the islands plays a part in this, but it makes me wonder if there's some outside force using salt on the salmonids to enhance their fighting capabilities and in turn, turn them into seasoned salmonids. Aside from boss reworks, I do want to mention the new enemies that we've seen in the trailer. I'm sure by now, we've all noticed how similar some of them are to the gelatins in side order. Take the Spinook for example. It has a one-on-one resembling to the drizzling Capriccioso, Springing Chum and Springing Sipicato, lastly homing Arpego and Sparky, since both enemies charge at you and explode. Perfect Italian by the way, 10 out of 10, translation, chef's kiss. Now, I'm not sure which came first, the gelatins or salmonids, cause despite all this, we barely know anything about salmonids lore-wise. Lore-wise, we don't know much about them, apart from what we are told in a few Sunken Scrolls, and it seems that there's only 6 scrolls in total that give us information on the salmonids. Of course, there might be some things outside of the game that I missed, so please feel free to let me know. But as of now, most information is limited to what we learn in the single-player campaign and from the Grizzco guidebook. So with Salmonids being the main antagonist of Splatoon Raiders, and with Big Man being the one to record information and give us little details on them depending on how many you fight, I can't wait to see what else we'll learn about Salmonids and their culture. With my thoughts on the Salmonids out of my system, I want to talk about 2 new features in Raiders. What makes Raiders more unique is the introduction of 2 new game mechanics, that being the gadgets that have replaced our sub-weapons, and Showstopper being a replacement for our special. First up, gadgets. Each gadget is separated into 3 different categories: speed, power, and tactical. Each gadget is assigned a specific ink tank that associates with it. As of now, there's a total of 12 gadgets that we've seen, but there's no telling how many more haven't been shown to us yet. For now, I'll cover the ones that we have seen so far. Speed gadgets are mainly for mobility, but can be used to deal damage. Blast Boot will allow you to quickly leap in a direction of your choosing and explode on impact. Dash Bomb will launch you towards whichever direction you're facing, giving you a speed boost and dealing damage to enemies close to the blast. Booyarang launches a boomerang that releases ink. Upon launching it, the Booyarang will leave a trail of ink, dealing consistent damage to those who dare step too close to it. Overall, speed gadgets seem like a great combination of speed and power, as not only do they provide a hasty escape, but also deal damage to enemies. In a way, it's kinda like a 2-in-1 combo. Power gadgets focus on the player's attack and damage output. The Splatchet allows you to rush forward, making a slashing attack and dealing devastating damage to any foes. The Spin Wheel is a tabletop-like spinner that can select and target enemies. Upon launching it, it releases ink and bounces off the walls, and deals damage to any enemy that makes contact with it. Kinda reminds me of Beyblade. Splatolites. Use a radio-like device that calls upon several ink saucers that orbit around you. These ink saucers coat the ground in ink and deal damage to enemies who invade your personal space. Shellacker. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Shellacker? I don't know, I'm just gonna call it Shellacker. Charge up and shoot a blast of ink. The projectile from this gadget seems a bit similar to Booyah Bomb, as it explodes on impact and consumes enemies in its range. Now, I think this is a pretty solid lineup for the power gadgets, and out of all of these, I think my favorite would have to be the Shellacker and Spin Wheel. I say this now because I am in awe of their design and function. Sure, these 2 might seem like upgraded versions of Ink Vac and Curling Bomb, but I love that we're getting something similar yet different. Tactical gadgets can be used as a stationary source of damage. Shotpot. Deploy a stationary turret that continuously targets and shoots enemies with ink. High Fiver. The High Fiver works somewhat similar to the Angle Shot and releases 5 different lasers that deal continuous damage to foes. Bombloons. Deploy a balloon of ink that will float and explode after being shot. You can deploy multiple bombloons and link them together to deal massive damage in multiple directions. Tether Whale. Similar to the Killer Whale, you can deploy a gadget that attaches a laser to you and follows your movement. The damage of the laser seems to depend on how far you are from the gadget. Tactical gadgets are probably going to be my most used gadgets, as I might have a slight bias to them because of the bombloons. Please don't judge me, and this may come as a surprise, but I absolutely love anything that's related to explosives. The bombloons are everything I could ask for in a Splatoon weapon. Some of these gadgets may seem a bit lackluster, but that's where gadget modifications come into play. It's pretty self-explanatory, but gadget modifications allow you to make changes and boost gadgets in different ways. Now, for the moment you've been waiting for, Showstoppers. Showstoppers are replacements for special weapons. Your Showstopper depends on which member of Deep Cut you choose to join you and pilot the mech. Each member has their own unique Showstopper. If you choose Fry as your tag-along partner, you will have the Moray Storm as your Showstopper. As for how it works, Fry will hop out of the mech, ride an eel onto battle, and summon a shower of eels to rain down and deal damage to foes. Choosing Shiver will grant you the Shark Bite Showstopper. Shiver will summon Master Mega and charge in a certain direction. Depending on the action, this could happen more than once, as seen in the Nintendo Live Treehouse. Lastly, Manta Dance. Big Man will use his Manta Ray arts to make both of you invincible. You can ride on his back and deal damage to enemies, and steer him in whichever direction you please. Those are the main 3 specials we'll be using in Splatoon Raiders. As we all know, Deep Cut's showstoppers are their clan's abilities that have been passed down, but I think it's pretty cool that we'll be using them to aid us during raids. One thing I've noticed is these showstoppers kinda work similar to some pre-existing specials. Personally, I can see myself using Fry's showstopper, because I think it's cool how Fry is just there riding an eel, playing her flute, and summoning more to attack enemies. The last thing I want to talk about are the Spiralite Islands. The Spiralite Islands seems to have just suddenly appeared overnight, according to the sunken scroll that we've seen in the Direct and Nintendo Today. For some odd reason, it seems to be home to the Salmonids. I'm not sure what their connection is to the island, but one thing does come to mind, and it's from a sunken scroll in Splatoon 3. Scroll 8 reads as follows: Salmonids mature by returning to the waters where they were spawned. What I'm trying to imply is that the Spiralite Islands might be the birthplace of all Salmonids. Some people in the community have added that the Salmonids in Splatoon Raiders have a striking resemblance to salmon when they are in their spawning phase. But that's just my thoughts. What do you think? Overall, I have a huge positive outlook for this game, and I cannot wait until Splatoon Raiders drops in a few days. I will be making a playthrough series for the game, so if you're interested in seeing that, be sure to stick around. As always, thank you for sticking around till the end. Leave a comment saying Spiral, so I know that you enjoyed the video and that you're interested in seeing the playthrough series. Until next time, my netizens, stay safe, and I'll see you later. Goodbye!